Okay, I'm back from lunch. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Maybe I'll edit this into one video. I'm looking at the runtime at the moment. I don't think I'll do that. Even the first video is looking like what, an hour? That's not acceptable. So I might do this into multiple parts and just put it into a playlist. Okay, so let's move on to deployment. First thing you should know is that you absolutely can lose a game at deployment, and very easily. And currently, they are basically two kinds of deployment. They are like sort of six different deployment zones, but really, there's only two kinds. There's vertical and there's horizontal. The top one is vertical, and the bottom one's horizontal. Vertical is more popular. Horizontal is basically like a legacy type of deployment. Old Warhammer in sort of fourth edition used to be played on the horizontal type, which is what we call Dawn of War. The bottom one is now called Sweeping Engagement, but the old one is called Dawn of War. Vertical is now more popular because it gives more space between the armies, and it concentrates the battlefield onto two different, onto one flank rather than two. So you're not having like two different fights that aren't really interacting with each other. Um, but the way that I want to think about the map isn't in sort of deployment, no man's land, and enemy deployment. I want to think about it in sort of safe, unsafe, semi-safe, and staging, which is sort of different from what they appear on the map. And I'm going to explain what this is. And now this is not official, so don't take this as some sort of gospel. And I don't think these will appear exactly the same way onto the 11th edition map. I'm going to use um, 10th edition maps to illustrate what I'm saying. And they don't even translate exactly on every single 10th edition map, but all 10th edition maps have sort of these kind of zones. Um, and 11th editions won't have the same, but they sort of have relatively similar kinds of places. So we'll see what happens. But this is the way I think about maps rather than what maps are. So let's move on to safe. So safe zones. These are zones usually within your deployment zone, although as you can see, some of these zones are outside of a deployment zone. These are zones where basically the opponent has no line of sight within your deployment zone unless they really rush in. Actually, here, this zone is not actually safe. This place is probably semi-safe. Um, Most of your units at the beginning of the game should be deployed within these zones. And the reason being that you want them to be safe. You don't really want them to be in unsafe zones because you don't know if you don't get first turn, the enemy can just rush you, kill one of your units, and there's no point in bringing a unit that just gets killed without doing anything, right? So you want them to be in these safe zones. The bad thing about safe zones is it's usually kind of difficult to leave unless you're infantry. If you deploy infantry here, they can just walk out. But if you deploy a tank here, they'll just hit the wall. So the tanks can only really be here, and you don't want to be that far back because if you're that far back, it's a long way to the enemy. So really, there's only like two places you can put tanks. And if you have a lot of vehicles or mounted in your army, it's a long way to the enemy. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. And so you have to be careful where you put your enemy, your army, and you're playing more of a horde army. Um, you might reach a point where you'll parking lot yourself. That's what we call it, especially on one of these deployments. This is Crucible of War, where these lines don't exactly correspond to the shape of the battlefield. They design it for this way for some reason. Um, so this is why you want to sometimes you want to put some of your units in the unsafe areas, or you want to put them in deep strike. The other thing to note is that not all of your units have to be right on the tippy edge of the deployment zone. Sometimes you're planning yourself to be slightly back because you know that those units will not be fighting immediately. For example, Azrael. Uh, Azrael in Dark Angels does not fight in turn 2 because Azrael wants to be generating command points because his rule is that he generates command points and he gives sustained hits and 4+ invuln to his squad. So he's usually leading like a very big brick of either Stern Guard or Inner Circle Companions or Hellblasters. So he's doing quite a lot of damage with his squad, but also you don't really want to be um, you don't really want to be sending that squad out on turn 2 and then losing out on your command points. So you can keep that squad sort of in the back over here, relatively safe, knowing that in turn 2 you can move him up, and then turn 3 send him out. So you don't have to keep him right on tippy toe over here. The other thing you want to do is watch out for move blockers. If you put your one thing I've done before is put my Blight Lord Terminators right in the block from here, so they can move out and shoot here. And then turn 1, my opponent put Rangers right in the top, right in front of my face over here, so they can't move out. So I have to shoot out these stupid Rangers. Rangers 55 points. My Terminators were 470 points, and I had to expose them in order to get rid of those stupid Rangers. And then my Terminators got shot for no good reason. So don't do that. Well, do that, but watch out. Put Boxwalkers, Rangers, Pathfinders, whatever you need over here to give them space, so that your safe areas are not just safe, they're able to be moved out from. Unsafe. There are places where are unsafe. Don't necessarily put things out in this area unless you have to. The reason why you want to be in this area is because they're move blocking. So, like I said, those Rangers were here because they're sacrificial. Eldar have been living for 10,000 years, trained all their lives. They're here to stop my Blight Lords from moving out more than 5 inches. That's their job. Yep. Sometimes I would put Poxwalkers stringing out from here because there's a 50% chance I just sticky those 2 points, and it makes life very difficult for my opponent. Sometimes if I know my opponent does have infiltrators, I'll stand them over here. Just so that if they on a 50% chance, I gain those 2 points, and it's really miserable for him. But most of the time, I don't want to do that. To deploy them safely, do not stand in one of these. And this is not exact, right? This place is not safe either. And I would argue that this place can be slightly semi-safe because deploying in this area, because this place is unsafe, this place is actually semi-safe because if the opponent deploys so that they can see here and attack this, they are actually exposing to this side. It's a bit of a game theory thing. So, and you notice that there is this safe area, this semi-safe area here. Some lone op or tiny 25mm bases can deploy here so that the enemy cannot shoot you from their deployment zone. They have to walk out here to shoot you. And it's kind of this, like, if you deploy your Pathfinders or your 5-man squad here, is it really worth them exposing the Repulsor Executioner to shoot them and then in turn get shot over here? It's a bit of dare you to do that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay, semi-safe. This is more interesting. So these are areas sort of where, in order to shoot, if you put a Rhino here, for example, it's a very great area because it's an overflow area. So if you put a Rhino here, you can move the Rhino into here very easily. But if you have 2 Rhinos, the other Rhino probably has to go here. Because if you put 2 Rhinos here, there's a traffic jam. You can't move the Rhino through your own Rhino to get to the spot. But if you put a Rhino here, the opponent can have a Gladiator, a tank here, move up here, get through this particular terrain, and then shoot you in here. And that's very unpleasant for you. But the other thing you can do is you can stop them from moving here, right? Put something here, and then now they can't shoot you into here. So maybe you put something move blocking here, and then they can shoot this thing, but it's a 45-point unit, and it saves your 400-point death block inside this Rhino, so it's worth it. And if your Rhino moves very slowly, and you really need your turn 2 kill this thing over here, it might be worth it. Or the other thing is you can do is just put that stupid Rhino in reserve, and then you don't have to worry about it. The other thing is Maybe you put something that won't actually die in this area, and then you bait out like the Repulsor Executioner. One thing I like to do in my Emperor's Children is to put the Demon Prince here. There's a flip 6 Demon Prince in Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children Winged Demon Prince has a -1 damage, and once per turn they can flip a 6 into flip a save into a 6, or yeah, it's only a 6, and then it has a 4+ invuln. So if the enemy has a Repulsor Executioner, it has 2 shots, and it's +1 to wound, strength 18 or something. So they wound on 2s, reroll hits. I'd have a 4+ invuln, so it probably won't kill the prince with a CP to reroll. But if I put it here and they move their Repulsor Executioner over here, like with an advance to get to here and then shoot, it probably won't kill him. But they just lost their Repulsor Executioner because I'm playing Emperor's Children. If they're here, they're dead. I can send out my Infractors, Noise Marines, uh, Demon Prince, everything to kill this Repulsor Executioner. It's a 230-point unit. It's absolutely worth me sending things here to kill it. And then the Demon Prince is like, flip 6, you can't kill me. So that's a really cool tech to just like bait out something else to do something here. But a lot of times it's actually worth just not put things here in order to prevent them to do something like that. And again, this is the semi-safe area over here where like you can put something here and then prevent and they can come out here to shoot you, but also they can not do that. They have to come out here to shoot this one. This one they can come out here. Staging area. So this the staging area on layout 1 is extremely safe. On other maps it's less safe. You can usually come out to like here and then shoot the staging area over here. But on layout 1 is extremely safe. In order to shoot this staging area, you have to get all the way to like here, and then this one is basically impossible to get to. And these are areas where you have to basically get all the way around to shoot them. And these are very important areas. They allow you to stay safely outside your deployment zone and fight in the center. And your deployment and turn 1 job is to make sure that you can get to this place safely. If you get to this place safely, then you can fight in the center. Then you can get into the trading and fighting phase of the game in turn 2 and turn 3. If you don't get to that point safely, there are several armies in this game. Tau, Orcs, Emperor's Children, Genestealer Cult, World Eaters, Space Wolves, White Scars, Blood Angels, all these armies which are just going to go, there's checkmate. This is called a fool's mate in chess. In 40k, it's called rushdown. Basically, just say turn 1, I'm in your face, you're dead. Good job. You can go have lunch in a tournament. It's like, it's turn 1, you're dead. So that's why you take infiltrators, and that's why you have scouts. It's just you want to be taking over this area, and it's very easy once you recognize it. It's very easy to realize on these maps where your staging areas are. You can go on to just open any of the 8 layouts in 10th edition. You'll see, oh yeah, there's my staging area. You can put a rhino there. They're all the size of a rhino. And you can open the 11th edition maps. Some of them, the staging area is a lot harder to map, but most of them you can see them, and you can see them very easily. They're the size of a rhino, and they're within 6-inch walk of the center objective. That's just all of them are like that. I've taken a look at some of the 11th edition map, and the staging areas are slightly less exposed because the slightly more exposed and slightly harder to see because the objectives aren't shaped like a circle, but they still exist. So, yeah, these rules will still exist in 11th. Okay, infiltrators. Probably the most important part of a deployment. So, these are the goals of infiltrator. You want to make your staging area safe. You want to make sure your semi-safe areas are safe if you're using them. You want to take the enemy staging area if they're stupid enough to let you. you want to push back enemy scouts. So if their enemy is doing a rush down, you want to make sure that they cannot scout forward. Because remember, the enemy scouts cannot move within 9 inches of your units. So if you are within 9 inches of the deployment zone, their scouts move 0 inches. Or they can move sideways. That's fine. So if their scouts are moving forward in a way that you think is not good for you, don't let them. So if they're moving into their staging area, you're like, okay, fine. I can't take their staging area because their infiltrators are there. Nothing I can do about it. But if they're moving, 9 inches forward, so they can disembark 3 and then move 7, advance 3.5, charge 7 into your deployment zone, don't let them do that. That's bad. Push them back. Put some scouts in there, and then push some infiltrators and then push them back. And so that's push back enemy rush down. The other thing is deny your enemies early primary and secondaries. Area denial is the easiest one. Put something within 6 inches of the center right here, so that when they want their enemy early area denial, they have to charge you. The rules as written right now, you can put them 1 inch against the wall, 1 inch away from the wall, and they can't charge you through the wall. They have to go around, and some armies just can't do it. So area denial in the beginning is just a dead draw. They lose. They lose a minimum of 3 points. Don't let them have it. Establish locus. You have to be within 6 inches of center and do an action. This is a free established locus for you in the beginning of the game. It's not true in 11th. The secondaries have changed, but this why not do it? If you have sticky on one of your infiltrators, like I do in Death Guard, you might want to sticky it. Although to avoid doing overwhelming force, avoid giving away overwhelming force, this is something that you might not want to do. And remember, they can't deploy within 9 inches of your deployment zone and within 9 inches of your units. So if you're 17 inches away from your deployment zone, they cannot deploy between you and your infiltrators. So see, this is 15 inches away. This is perfectly safe. But this area here is unsafe. So they can actually deploy within here. But I'll be honest, they won't. Because this area is unsafe for them. Like if they deploy an infiltrator here, they're just gonna die because you can deploy a tank behind here and they just shoot you, and they can't actually shoot at the tank. So it's like, why would they do that? So this area is safe. So this is like 2 areas you can deploy an infiltrator, and you would deploy on the blue if the enemy has a scout that's going to rush you down, and you would deploy on the red on a more normal circumstance. This is to take your staging area. This is to prevent a rush down, and very rarely you basically won't have both because if you push back a rush down, you'll save your secondary your staging area as well. And the only way that you will do both is if they have like a jump pack unit that is also like they can jump over them, and then yeah, it basically won't happen. That's not supposed to happen. So this is your infiltrator goals. These are some of the things that make an infiltrator superior to others, and you usually pay a premium for it. So do you really want to do it? Not really. The first thing is, and this is one unit that has all these traits. That's why I take it as an example. This is a Crew Trail Shaper. He is concentrated shenanigans. There is more deployment shenanigans in this single unit than any other unit in the game. He is an infiltrator, of course. He has Scout 7, so when you go back here, this is actually one unit. This is a Pathfinder unit, basically. You can deploy like this, infiltrate, and then you can Scout 7 backwards into this hall. So you don't actually have to choose. You can just deploy them in a line, and then during the scouting phase, you just scout them back into the hole, and then they don't actually have to. They can do both. You don't have to worry about what the opponent's doing. The Crew Trail Shaper is only one guy, but he can do both. You can infiltrate the open and Scout 7 into the staging area. But he also has this rule, Crew Ambush. After both players have deployed their armies, you can redeploy this model's unit and one other friendly crew unit. So you can redeploy your Crew Carnivore somewhere else and this unit. So you put them in the open, redeploy them to move block another scouting unit, and then scout him back so he's back into cover. He's absolute bullshit. Oh, and he has this reactive move. So you can redeploy him into the center to move block a scout unit, and then scout him back into the staging area so he's staged, and then you can move him to the center to deny an area denial or establish locus, and then if somebody moves up to try and kill him for area denial or for established locus or just to kill him because why not, you can reactive move d6 to save him, and he's cheap. That's also another good thing because if he's cheap, um, he always good to have a cheap chaff unit. The bad thing is he's a character, and he's only one guy, so he doesn't deny that much space. Character gives away assassination. That's in 10th edition, 11th edition. I don't know what's going to happen. So, and he does no damage. So, if he's made to do area denial or overwhelming force, he does nothing. And Shaper's Blade does 2 attacks, strength 5, AP nothing, does nothing. So okay, basic principle: always bring infiltrators. If you don't bring it, you lose. And if I'm playing Monka, I'll punish the fuck out of you if you bring no infiltrators. The minimum is 1 unit because you want to take your staging area. 2 is preferred. I have 6 in my Tau list because in Tau every unit infiltrates. Stealth suits infiltrate, Pathfinders infiltrate, Ghost Kill infiltrates. Just I I don't like. I will finish deploying my infiltrators before you finish deploying your army. So actually, infiltrating is optional. Like a lot of people get caught with, oh, I have an infiltrator unit, I have to deploy them forward and as close to the arm as the enemy as possible. Don't do it. If the enemy is not actually putting their infiltrators down, or like they're actually like they have too many shooters, just put them back in your deployment zone, or just put them 1 inch in front of your deployment zone. If they have a load of deep strike, your infiltrators are also screeners, so you can just put them back in your deployment zone and put them in the back. Okay, scouts. Scouts, they let you move X amount of inches before the game. The easiest way to use scouts is to set up rushdown, but most of the time you don't actually get to use them for that because the opponent knows you can use them as rushdown, so they'll just block you off. The way that you use them right now, the best way is to put them behind your infiltrators so they can move up. So you have your infiltrators set up on your staging, you put your scouts behind the staging so that you can move up to your staging faster, save you some movement before your first movement phase. And it clears up some of your deployment zone so that you don't have to, create a traffic jam for yourself. The other thing is that it creates a position where if you go first, you go in one position. If you go second, you can go into the second position. So you can either move up or move back. And that allows you to deploy these guys in the open. So this position is usually semi-safe, but because I can scout, it's actually safe because I can move straight into this position here with a Scout 6. These would be my Chaos Spawn because Chaos Spawn Scout 6 and Death Guard. And they Scout 8 and World Eaters, which is ridiculous because they move 10, Scout 8, and they can advance and charge from the datasheet. So they have a 28-inch threat range. The other thing you can do is early stickies. So Crew Carnivore, for example, have Scout 7. So if you deploy them here, this is 6.5 inches. They can Scout 7 and get on that point. And early secondaries. So if you Scout 6 here, move A here, you can do an action. You cannot advance and do an action. So unless you have that rule in like Infernus Marines in Forge Father Seekers, if you have Vulcan. So that is a rule that is very useful because most of the things cannot. So you're not wasting your jump pack intercessors because remember, jump pack intercessors can do damage. So you don't want to waste your jump pack intercessors doing actions when the enemy is going to be like, you got your jump pack intercessors out. I'm going to kill them first so that they can't kill my more important units. And the other thing you can do with Scout is they can scout forward dedicated transports. So remember, dedicated transports, they're thick, they're big, they can block off your important ingress points, your egress points. So you want to scout them forward so that you can use them to reach your staging point faster. And so one thing that you can do is musical chairs. So you scout them forward, hop out the scouts, or even keep the scouts inside, hop in the things that cannot scout, and then so they can reach their dedicated staging points faster and not block off your deployment zone. So this is an example. This is layout 4, and this is a Emperor's Children Rhino. These are Noise Marines. Noise Marines cannot scout, so they go on the outside. They're just standing here. They're closest to the Rhino. They're within 3 inches of the Rhino. When the Rhino scouts 6, they're still within 9 inches of the Rhino. So when they move up 6, they can embark because they're within 3 inches. These guys are infractors with a Lord Exultant. When they get out, they're within 3 inches of the Rhino, 2.99. They can move 7 inches, and then they can advance. The average advance roll is a 3.5 because it's 3.5 is average on a d6, and then on an average 2d6 charge, it's 7. So on the first turn, if I roll to go first, this is my threat range: 6 plus 3 plus 7 plus 3.5 plus 7. Well, this is actually average 11 because on a 3d6 it's an 11. So if you add that up, that's 18 plus 3, that's 27. I'm in your deployment zone. If I roll this advance slightly higher, I'm on your objective, and these guys re-roll wounds on objective, re-roll ones to wound normally, and this guy has +3 attacks once per game. So, and because I can see this advance roll before I decide whether to move out or move in, because I can deploy here, and then if I roll a low advance roll, I just move back here. I can say, okay, I move it, I get here, I roll my advance roll, I rolled a 1, okay, I move here. I rolled a 5, okay, I'm here. Roll a 5, okay, I'm here behind this wall. And then so now this is like a 6-inch charge, and I have 1 CP to re-roll it. And then so you have your, God knows what, your uh, blade guard over here. And I was like, okay, you got your blade guard deployed behind this wall. They're very smug. They're ready to get into this staging area. And you're an idiot. You didn't stage your scouts here. Well, you moved you moved your scouts back because you want to save them. You think that 70 points of scouts is worth saving, so you move your scouts back. Well, I'm in your deployment zone, and I'm in your home objective now, and they're gonna die, right? I've killed your blade guard, but you're gonna send your repulsor executioner and terminators and Marnius Calgar or whatever and kill them. But you guys, you've wasted a turn killing him, and you're not on the center objective. You're not on your expansion objective. You're not on any of my points. And I've only spent 160 points. I've killed 160 points of your shit, and you're losing the game already. And I've taken the center. I've taken all 3 points. I'm going to score 15 on round 2. You're screwed. So that's my turn one rushdown. And all you did is you've tried to save 70 points worth of scouts. So this is a very basic rushdown example. And also, by the way, this Rhino can still work. This Rhino has firing deck and 2 Blastmasters in it that can shoot out of it. So this Rhino only scouted 6. He can still move. He can move out to over here, show a little bit of butt over here, and then this Rhino can shoot down this firing lane. So anything in here is still being threatened. And you can threaten this side as well. So it's still like basically a small tank that's shooting over here. And if you shoot the Rhino, I can Armor of Contempt or Armor of Abhorrence to save it. And then next turn, the Noise Marines pop out, kill whatever is on here. It's a very strong tech. Okay, Deep Strike, the other movement shenanigans. So to clarify the rules, because this is sometimes very confusing, because in 10th edition they did not they came up with the reserves rules, and then they basically have to patch it in all of the chapter approved decks, and then they refuse to actually patch it in the core rules because they don't want to change the rulebook. So the way it works is it's a Venn diagram. 25% of your army can be in strategic over reserves. Anything can be in strategic reserves. That's anything. You can put bikers in it. You can put a defiler in it. You can put anything can be a strategic reserves. You can put a defiler in it. You can put bikes in it. You can put noise marines is my favorite. You can put a whole rhino in it as long as it's under 25% of your army. So 500 points. You can put up to 50% of your army in reserves, but only things that say in their rules that they can be put in reserves. And strategic reserves are part of reserves. And usually this is deep strike. So Um, there are other things like, oh, if there's like redeploys are reserved. So there's things like this at the beginning of your turn, at the beginning of the game, you can take 3 units that you deployed, and then you can put them in your reserves. That's part of reserves. That's not part of strategic reserves. But usually it's deep strike, and you can put half of your army into reserves. And things that are in reserves that did not start on the board has to come in on round 2 or round 3. If they do not come in round 3, they are destroyed. If they start on the board, they can come in on any round, including round 1, round 4, and round 5. In general, round 1, round 2, or round 3, do not let them come in on round 4 or 5, because by the time they come in round 4 or 5, they have um, they are no longer able to influence the game. Because the game is too like you're too far behind the scoreboard to actually influence anything. The only exception is that there are uppy downy units where they've already done something on round 2 or round 3, or they're here to do behind enemy lines. That's the only reason why you do that. Okay, principles. For screening, you must have some deep strike. Always have a unit in deep strike. When you're building your list, have 1 unit in deep strike, even if you're not actually using deep strike as a mechanic to do damage or to bring in one of your units. Um, if you don't have a deep strike, have an uppy downy unit. In fact, uppy downy is better than deep strike because then you have all your units on the board for screening, and your enemy has to worry about deep strike even into turn 4 and 5, so they always have to have something in the back. If you have a 6-inch deep strike, have a 6-inch deep strike because now they have to have more things to screen. It takes 2 units to screen your deployment zone. It takes 3 if you have a 6-inch deep strike. It only takes 4 units to screen out 2/3 of the board because if you have 2 units that are 18 inches apart, that screens out anything that's between them. It only takes 4 units to screen out 2/3 of the board. Although, to be honest, if you want to be really safe because they draw circles and then there's like a little gap in between, it's really 6 units. But um, if you want, if you're actually careful, about 4 will do 2/3 of the board. Yeah. Deep strike with purpose. So other than that chaff unit that you're deep striking to keep them screened, and that unit can do behind enemy lines, so it's not really without purpose. Um, is it faster for that unit to walk? So one of the best examples is Sanguinary Guard, which is these guys over here. They can move 12, and they can advance and charge with a CP in most attachments. So, oh, and Death Company as well. Do you really want to deep strike them? Because when you deep strike, they have a 9-inch charge. If you rapid ingress them, uh, if the enemy knows how to screen properly, you're basically back in your own deployment zone anyways. So why don't you just put them in your deployment zone and walk them forward? If you're afraid of them being killed, just put them further back. And then your enemy has to worry about them more, and you don't have to spend the CP on rapid ingress. And you don't have to worry about forgetting about rapid ingress, and it's less mental strain on yourself. Right? So, and you don't have to worry about, oh, did I do this on turn 1 or turn 2 or turn 3? You can do it on any turn, just walk them forward. Right? It's always a problem where like, oh, the enemy has gone for a turn 1 rushdown, and my guys who are supposed to counter this are in the sky. Shit. What do I do? So sometimes it's just easier to just walk them forward. Just walk. Especially jump back guys. It's always the jump back guys. Like Terminators, don't walk them forward. Like don't walk Terminators forward. They won't do well. But if it's jump back guys, think very carefully before you rapid ingress. But at the same time, like if you have too many guys on the field, do the deep strike. And also, deep striking shooting units is always makes more sense than deep striking charging units. If you're deep striking a lot of charging units, think carefully because charging units almost always want rapid ingress. Okay, 9-inch charges aren't real. 47% chance with a reroll. With a reroll, that's with the CP. So do not charge from deep strike unless you really have to. That's a desperate play. That's like if the enemy has a Vectora, so you can't rapid ingress because they fucked up your CP spend. So yeah, don't do it unless there's some real good reason they've completely ruined your lines and you really have to. It's a desperate play. So because you're relying on rapid ingress, you can only rapid ingress one unit at a time unless there's a specific rule that says otherwise. So your when you're building your list, if you have more than one, then one squad has to be in reserve and only come in on turn three. One like you can't have both squads come in on turn two. So think carefully. The only exception to this is Death Guard because you can have two squads come in on 6-inch deep strike. And also what you will call it. Grey Knights has a 6-inch deep striker stratagem in the Crow detachment. So you can technically have one come in on rapid ingress and one come in on 6-inch deep strike if you do it properly and it's in this your sanctified zone. It's jank and it doesn't work on Terminators, so it's really, really jank. And also, when you rapid ingress, don't do it in front of the enemy's face. Do it behind cover so you don't get shot, which really seriously limits your options because cover is not always available. So, okay, when your deployment, what's the sequence? First thing is infiltrators race. If you have infiltrators, put them down. Defensive infiltrators first, aggressive infiltrators second. You don't want to be in a position where you put down your infiltrators to take your opponent's staging area, and then they take your staging area, and then you fuck up. There are some exceptions. For example, Tau in some Tau lists, I don't care if you take my staging area, I just shoot you out of it. I don't need my staging area because I move fast enough. Um, so I'll take your staging area to ruin your plans, and then I'll shoot you out in turn one, and then I'll stage on turn two. I'm gonna lose on primary anyways. I'm gonna kill you. So sometimes my plan is that. That's my plan. Second thing, unimportant trash to minimize information. So I'm trying to make you put down as many units as I can, so I know where your units are going. So, for example, if you're putting your fire support tank that is very heavy on that's like a T12, I want to put my anti-tank to match your thing. So as soon as it comes out, I can shoot you. So I put down my, intercessors down. I put down my Demon Prince that has to go on one edge because he can't move until turn three down. I'm putting down my stealth suits who are guiding, so they have to go down on one corner. I'm putting down my, you know, uh, infiltrators who are blocking deep strike. I'm putting down my scout move chaos spawn. I'm putting down all these things that where they don't really matter where they go, either because they move really fast, they're uppy downing, or they have a redeploy. Anything where these things don't matter, I'm not giving you information. The other thing is don't move block yourself. So one thing I will do is I'll use my own units to measure out places where I might put them. And I might say, okay, here are 3 places I might put my rhino. So I'm going to use my rhino as a measuring tool to say, here is where I'm going to put my rhino. And I'm just going to put my 60mm here and put my rhino next to it and say, here are possible positions I can put my rhino. And I'll tell my opponent that's what I'm going to do. I'm using my rhino as a measuring tool. Or sometimes, if you're running an army that has big bases like knights, buy extra bases. Those bases like $3 or $5 each. Just buy a bunch of 120mm bases and just go around and say, hey, I have 10 bases. I'm just going to put them down. And they're very useful movement tools as well, so that you can like plan your movement out and say, here, I'm going to move him 5, put down an extra base, like pivot him 2 inches, put down an extra base, move him another 6, put down extra empty base. Okay, this is where I'm going to move. Okay, now move away all your bases. Now move the model. That's a very useful tool. Um, After that, you put down your fire support units to match your enemy's fire support units. So hopefully your enemy has fewer units than you do. They've put down some units. You've put down your units to match them, and then you put down your bricks that have clear movements towards your staging areas. So when you're in layout one, you see how there's this movement, this line that takes you straight to your staging area. This line just takes you straight to your staging area. You want these two lines, so your rhino goes here, your rhino goes here, or whatever else, your impulsor, your repulsor Well, does your repulsor go here? The repulsor doesn't fit here. So these are your areas that you want to go. Sometimes if the enemy hasn't given you enough information, you know that they're going here, and your enemy probably knows they're going here. Put them down. An experienced enemy will know what you're doing. So that's not giving them extra information. Um, and if the enemy has no infiltrators, put them in last. You get to bully them. And, they don't know what they're doing. Then bully the hell out of them. Oh, and also if they have no infiltrators, you don't have to screen your staging area, so you can just put them in their staging area and just prevent them from moving out. Jail them. Make sure they can't do anything. So if they have no if they have no infiltrators, maximize your forward pressure by jailing them into their deployment zone. If you have no deep strike, maximize forward pressure by not screening your own area and then throw the chaff at their face. Do save some for your own secondaries, but then throw at their face. Sticky or home if you have sticky. Not all armies have it. For your scouts, make sure you plan to make sure you know where they're going first or second. Sometimes the same place, you just throw in them in your staging area, but sometimes you want to go them forward or back. Don't move block yourself. Ask to verify whether your opponent can draw line of sight. So you put your thing down and say, "Hey, can you see from that area? Like if you move up 10, can you actually see what that if you can shoot from that area?" And also like measure. So if your opponent put down a tank there and says, "Hey, if you move, like what's your movement on that tank?" Oh, he moves 10. If you move up 10, can you draw line of sight on this tank? You can't. Can he advance and shoot? Oh, he can advance and shoot. Well, if you advance and shoot, can you? Okay, you can. Um, do you like? Oh, but my advance and shoot is a detachment rule. I have to. It's once per game. Well, you know what? If you advance and shoot on turn one, and it's only that tank that can draw line of sight, I'm okay with that. Like, if you're gonna risk your advance and shoot to shoot my one tank and it doesn't actually kill it, that's actually fantastic for me. You're wasting your resources. I'm willing to let you do that. So these are things that you can actually talk over with your opponent, and you know it actually minimizes your risk and allows you to deploy much more freely. You know, you can just say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna deploy slightly forward," and then your opponent's going, oh, "I'm not gonna shoot that," because you've already told your opponent what the risks are. And ask your opponent, "What about your threat range?" My infractors can move 27 inches with that lord and shoot the crap out of, attack the crap out of you on your deployment zone. I tell my opponents proactively, but you should be asking. What's in that rhino? Infractor with Lord Exalted. What does it do? Well, he Scout 6, move 7, advance and charge. What does that mean? Well, it's a 27-inch threat range. Well, you should have asked, right? I could tell you those numbers, but if a sort of sneaky opponent can tell you all those things separated within the sort of explain phase and say, "Oh, my army rule is advance and charge," and these guys have move 7 and they scout 6. And if you're not a good player, you can like not string those things together and not realize that turn 1 they can be in your deployment zone. But if you ask them specifically, "Hey, what's the threat range on that thing?" 27 inches. Oh, 27 inches. Wow. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Now you deploy more carefully. And so sometimes it's good to ask more pointed questions. And it's considered much worse manners not to explain in that fashion. Okay. This is more 10th edition specific. Do not put anything on an objective except on home, because there is a thing called Storm Hostile Objective and what was the other one? Storm Hostile and Jesus Christ. Overwhelming Force. Those are two secondaries that you can draw on turn one, and they would be dead draws if you draw them on turn one. If you don't put something on your expansion objective, and you don't need to, so don't do it. The only reason you want to is if you want to sticky them for risky sticky. Um, you have to make the judgment yourself. Sometimes if the enemy is really slow, like if they're running Death Guard, if they're running tank heavy, or if they're running something that is like sisters, some sisters, not all sisters, they're not running a lot of scouts, they can't reach you, or if the things that can reach you don't have a lot of attack power, it might be worth it. If they're running Tau, don't do it. You know, they'll throw some breacher fish in your face, and you won't be able to do it. And always have some sacrificial chaff for doing secondaries. Always have something for area denial, establish locus. Attempting target is not really worth it. Usually it's too much to sacrifice. You'll almost certainly lose a unit, and it's only 4 points. It's usually a dead draw anyways. Um, but occasionally I'll keep that just because it sometimes throws the opponent off. Some more little tips and tricks on deployment and movement. It's kind of basic, but don't expose a unit that does not need to be exposed. It's very stupid to lose a unit before it needs to do anything. That's a basic mistake. It's not unrecoverable. You can lose like a 200-point unit and still win the game. With like lose it before it does anything, you can still win the game. But why bother, right? Don't lose a unit before you need to. No unit needs to ever walk in the open before doing something useful. The maps are designed in a way where if you walk a unit in the open, that you've done something wrong. If you do that, it means you should have put it in a transport. It should have been in a reserve. It should have been in deep strike. It should have been deployed somewhere else, or it should have had a jump pack. Or that unit should have had a screen on its way up on the board. The other thing is, don't waste your chaff. Save your chaff. One of the easiest mistakes that I've ever seen people make is to put heavy intercessors on the rooftop of their home objective. They're like, I have intercessors. They have 24-inch range or 30-inch range, and they have toughness 6 and 3 wounds. That's kind of tough. I can use them to shoot people. No, you can't. No, intercessors, on the grand scheme of things, have 0 toughness. They will die. If you put your intercessors on the rooftop, I will shoot them the fuck dead. Right? It doesn't matter if the toughness 6 was 3 wounds, and my heavy blow drone will pick them up in 1 activation because they're damage 3. So if they're supposed to be guarding your home objective, they're supposed to be guarding your home objective. Keep them safe. And you want to guard them with minimum effort. So never leave them out in the open. And it's a most rookie mistake. I think if you're watching this video, you probably are competent enough not to do it. But there's always a temptation to sort of just get a little bit more of an angle. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay, move blocking. This is something that it's sort of a concept that a lot of people don't get it. Movement happens before shooting, charging, and fighting. The the opponent's movement phase has already happened before any unit of yours dies. They can still charge, but if you're 1 inch away from your face, from the face, or 2 inches away from their face in 11th edition, so it's like move blocking is even easier in 11th edition. They have to be where they are. The most they can move is 2 inches if they charge you. So if you move within 2 inches of their face in 11th, or 1 inch of their face in 10th, that's it. They can't move forward any more than that. Unless they can fly, and even if they can fly, if they can't land, they can't move. So if you stretch back 12 inches, they can't move over you. And in 11th, it's even worse because they have to reduce their movement by 2 inches just to fly over you. So, like if they're a jump pack unit, they can move 12. They're now down to moving 10. And like a unit of 10 guys, 10 poxwalkers, can easily stretch back 10 inches. So that's not very hard to move block. Oh, and you have a 2-inch denial bubble. So one 25mm base can move block a space that is 5 inches in diameter. Two 25mm bases with 2 inches of coherency in between. That's 25 plus 25 plus an inch of coherency in between, plus 2 inches on either side. So that is 3 plus 4. That's 7 inches. So if a unit, so it doesn't take much. You know, three three guys. One, two, yeah. Three guys is five. Yeah, that's 9 inch. So three guys in a grid. Nine guys in a grid. Nine guys in a grid um blocks off a 12-inch movement jump pack unit from flying over you. So move blocking is extremely powerful. You can't move past a unit if a unit won't let you, right? Um, and if you can't move past a unit, you can't do anything uh, that is beyond that unit. You can't land on objective, so you cannot score. If you can't move on objective, you can't do any of the secondaries on objective. No area denial, no established locus, no storm or hostile objective, no no overwhelming force, right? If you have a unit that's not objective and a unit that's on the objective behind them, well, they can't score. So they can't score overwhelming force if they're a melee squad. They can shoot them, but they can't. But like if they fail to kill it, they can't charge them to finish off the job. So you can sacrifice like a 65 unit, 65 point squad of poxwalkers and save like if they draw overwhelming force and area denial, that is 9 points plus 5 on the victory points. That is a 14-point swing because you sacrifice 65 points of Poxwalkers. And that has happened like game after game after game. I've done that like 10, 20 times in my career where I was just like 65 points of Poxwalkers go and they just win me the game because I there's a 14-point swing on one round because people are just like, oh, this is Poxwalkers. Who cares? Oh, I can't move past them. Shit. And 65 points of Poxwalkers don't necessarily have to die because you can have cover. You can move block and then put them in cover, put them inside the terrain, or put them behind a piece put them behind a footprint so they can't be shot, or whatever. Right? There's so many ways you can save them, and so surprisingly, these chaff will live. And if they live, then the opponent is really fucking screwed. And so this is a technique where basically if you want to move up the move up table from the low tables to the mid tables, I think this is probably the one technique that you have to understand is that movement is how you win the game. You want to be move blocking. Your body is more important than your stats. It's why like having a fat base is sometimes way more important than like what the toughness or what the strength. Having a strength 8 gun, no, not important. Oh, you have a 50 millimeter base with a 2 with with a 2 inch coherency. Oh, it's fantastic. This is why like Nurglings are fantastic. Why? Because they're 6 to a unit, so they don't have to maintain coherency with that little bone thing. They don't have to maintain coherency with 2 in their unit, and they're 40 millimeter bases. So they just stretch out this longest line possible. You can't you can't walk past them, and they cost nothing. They're 70 points, and you just what the fuck am I supposed to do with these guys? And they can block off half the board with their bulk, and you can't do anything about it. So move blocking is how you win the victory points with units that do not matter. Okay. Board presence. So board presence is what I consider an emergent property. What's emergent property? This is like a scientific term that has nothing to do with 40K, but um, wetness is an emergent property of water. So wetness does not exist in nature, but we can feel wetness, right? So when you have multiple water molecules, it creates an emergent property because it's like slippery and slidey, and you know it has certain properties to your skin. That's what we call wetness. But wetness doesn't actually exist. It's just having water on a surface. That's what wetness is. Well, move board presence is what happens when you have lots of move blocking on your enemy. And what happens is that the enemy has certain properties to their army, and you have certain advantages to your army. When you move block a lot, the enemy cannot move past you because you move block them. They have to deal with the enemies that you choose. So they can only shoot at things that they can see because you move block them. They can't move around to choose the line of sights that they choose because you can like the angles that you choose are the ones that they can choose. They can't move around that bend because um they can only move within 2 inches or 1 inch now, but 2 inches in 11th of your units. And they can't score the primaries and secondaries because they're beyond your units. But you have freedom of action. Everything behind your units you can move around, right? You can just go, oh, I want secondary here. And you can choose what units you want to move on your primary and secondary. You can choose to move the cheapest units on there. My I can move my Chaos Spawn to score primary and secondary because they are 80 points each and they're only OC1. They're only OC1, but you have nothing to contest me with, so OC1's enough. Whereas they have to put on something, they have to choose the jump pack units that are nice and um, that are very fragile, and they're very expensive, and they have to move on to the point because those are the only things that can get past your screen. So that you have freedom of action that they don't. You can choose whatever target that in their army that you want because you're move blocking them. You can see all of their army. Right? That you're in the deployment zone. You can choose their tank. You can choose Eldrad Othran. You can choose their intercessors because you're in their face. And you can score points because I have to choose a tempting target. Well, I'm on all three objectives. I can choose any of them. I have to do establish locus. Well, I'm on the locus. What can you do? And so board presence generates victory points, it generates killing opportunities, it generates ways for you to win the game. And so board presence in many situations can be more important than killing the enemy. Um, board presence board presence gives you opportunity to win the game. And so sometimes it is okay to be inefficient in trading units. So you can you've exposed 800 points to kill 600 points. Yeah, but I've gained so much board presence. I've pushed you so far back into your deployment zone, and you don't have the resources to come out and challenge me in the next turn that it's worth it for me to to do this, right? You may be able to kill 400 points of my stuff, but next turn you're not on the objectives. So I'll be able to score points, and therefore I still win. So being tabled in your opponent's deployment zone can mean that you win. Emperor's Children, these guy is a primary example. Like in many times, my game plan is to get tabled by turn 4, but by turn 5 you're not on any objective and therefore I win. I've sticky 2 of them, you're on none of them. I score an extra 10 points in turn 5, I win. That's most of the cases. Remember that Eldar game that I mentioned at the first part of the presentation? That was 88 to 92. I scored a full 50 uh, on primary. He scored 45. I lost because I had 4 dead draws in turn 3 and 4, and I never lost. And he had good draws. So it's not 100%, right? Sometimes the luck just does not swing your way and you lose. But you take what you can. Remember, there's 4-1 players, there are not 5-0 players, and I'm neither of those things. Okay, trading. Trading is sort of the opposite of board presence in terms of a gaming philosophy or a playing philosophy. Basically, instead of playing sort of very aggressively and pushing in their face, you are trying to push the minimum amount in their face in order to do the maximum amount of damage, right? You are calculating how many points and how much damage you are doing and trying to be most efficient with your points. You're caring less about how much of the board you're controlling. You're caring about how much resources you have left versus how much resources they have left. So you're trying to keep as safe as possible. You're trying not to expose any of your resources. And you're trying to just send out one unit and just send out that unit of 6 guys, and that 6 guys is going to go bar and then kill a lot of things. And then if that 6 guys dies, that's fine, right? Remember the Chaos Lord and the 5 Legionaries. That's a trading unit, or sometimes a trading unit can be a fire support, right? Expose a tank, kill a tank. Next turn they shoot the tank, but you've already killed a tank that's more expensive than your tank. So you're okay with that. Um, this requires you to know what you're shooting at and what your thing is capable of doing. You have to know yourself and know them very well. So, here's a list of considerations that you might want to know. First thing, what is the enemy's defensive profile? Ask them. Toughness, save, uh, what special abilities they have. What's their lone op? Don't expose a thing and they have lone op 12. You can't shoot them. Do they have okay? Uh, what special abilities do they have? Do they have lone op? Um, don't expose a thing and shoot at something if they have lone op 12 and you can't shoot at them. Do they have reactive lone op? Pack down zealots has a thing where they have lone op 18 and with for 1 CP. Don't expose a thing to shoot them and then there's a 1 CP lone op 18. Ask them. Do you have stealth? -1 to your hit, or they have cover. So don't do that. In 11th edition, this works differently. So they have feel no pain. That changes your equation. So that works different. Invulns, armor of contempt. They can pop it for a CP. -1 damage. That changes a lot of breakpoints. Fights first is a special one. You send your legionaries forwards, and then you hit lion, and the lion just says no and just kills all your legionaries. Yeah, don't do that. Defensive stratagems, armor of contempt, -1 damage, -1 to hit. All these things always happen. Trading is especially because trading, when you're minimizing resources, they usually always do more damage than they can take. So if you don't ask carefully about what things they can do, a lot of times they can say, "Oh, I'm just gonna make you -1 damage," and then okay, they die. Um, Sometimes they'll have fight on death. A fight on death is usually okay for trading because like, okay, you die and I die. Okay, that was gonna happen anyways. Although sometimes, you kind of want that to happen in the next turn so that the opponent can't just walk up as if nothing happened on the next turn. You kind of want them to waste a turn. So that sort of turns a advantageous trade onto a wash. So you want to ask, do they have something like that? Uh, you want to make sure you know what the opponent's CP spend is like. Heroic intervention, that's one thing. Sometimes heroic intervention might not prevent you from killing the thing you're trying to kill, but it could sort of bog you down, right? You might want to kill a thing and then consolidate back onto the point so that you be able to take the point away from them or score some secondaries. Right? For example, you might want to kill a thing and then consolidate back in order to get area denial. Well, he could heroically intervene, and then now you can't leave, and then now you're screwed. Counteroffensive. So if you're doing trading on multiple fronts, now you can't. You have to watch out for the sequencing where they just kill you. 11th edition, this is called Fights First because 11th edition has completely nerfed Fights First. It doesn't do anything anymore. Fire Overwatch is a very common thing because if you get Fire Overwatched as a trading unit, they're very weak. They just die. Target value and points. You do not want to send a 160 point trading unit into an 80 point chaff and they just die, and that that trading unit didn't do what they're supposed to do. Um, but sometimes you do. For example, does this unit buff others? If you send a trading unit to kill, for example, um, a stealth suit unit. If the stealth suit is out of position, and then that stealth suit gives reroll ones to wound and hit and wound to the entire Tau unit, and you can actually pick out that stealth suit unit, and it's 100% worth it to send 160 points worth of Chaos Lord into it because that cuts down the Tau player's damage output by a considerable amount. So if you can catch him, like blaze away, kill him, get that thing the fuck out of here. Does this unit counter your brick? So if you have a brick of Terminators and he has a three damage unit or a 4 damage unit because you have -1 damage, you know, send something that kills that 3 damage unit, 4 damage unit. Um, There was a game where this guy had a couple of Doomsday arcs, and I had a bunch of Terminators. I sent my Death Shroud and dropped them on his Doomsday arcs to kill them really quickly. The reason being that all his other guys were like 1 damage, 2 damage guys, and I had a giant brick of Blight Lords, and I dropped that giant brick of Blight Lords in the middle of the game of the board, and without his Doomsday arc, he had no way of dealing with that Blight Lords, and the Blight Lords just sat in the middle going, you have no way of dealing with this. I can just do whatever the fuck I want, and I just every turn I just picked off one of his units with those Blight Lords, and there's nothing he can do about it. So um, that was those Death Shroud were not very good against was not a fair trade against the against those Doomsday Arcs. Those Doomsday Arcs were 200 points. The Death Shroud were 280 points. But because I took away those Doomsday Arcs, now my Blight Lords were invincible because he had nothing else that could counter the Blight Lords. So they were worth it. And the other thing is trades do not have to be fair because positioning, scoring denial, board presence, these things, even though trading is a sort of an opposite playstyle to board presence, they tie into each other. Where if you can do both things at the same time, right? Um, you can trade very conservatively, but then you can combine both playstyles and trade aggressively as well. Okay, bricks. We talked a lot about bricks previously, but just a couple of things about using bricks. We talked about how you have to use them with stratagem support, combos. Make sure they have leaders. Don't take a 10 man and don't put a leader on them. If you're going to spend points on them, spend the points on them. Usually these combos are designed to be stacking in terms of synergies. So if you have 10 guys, you add a thing. It's not just a 100% increase; it's a 150% increase in their in their power. Make sure they're in the correct targets and make sure that they're being on the objectives. That's not on targets, being objectives. This PowerPoint is 52 pages. You get mistakes. And you want to know these conditions instinctively. You only have 3 bricks. Learn what your bricks are supposed to be doing. And 3 bricks is usually a lot, actually. By the way, not all armies have bricks. Tau don't have bricks. The biggest brick we have is like 220 points. And they're not actually bricks, they're more training units. So know what the conditions are. Your bricks can advance in charge. Know that they can advance in charge. Your bricks have like 2 stratagems that work with them. Know what the stratagems are. If the bricks have to be on objectives, know what the objectives are, and know when to ignore them. It's like know like, okay, this brick does 40 damage. If I remove this stratagem, it does 30 damage. And like when you run this brick like 3 or 4 times, you know, okay, if I cut this one, it does half damage. If I cut this one, it does a third damage. And you know, okay, this time is completely overkill. I could have just cut that stratagem. And then run a couple of times, and you know that, okay, I don't have to use this brick to its maximum potential. And sometimes I can drop 2 bricks at the same time and then split my resources, split my CP, split my stratagems, split my shooting power in order to support 2 bricks, and maybe make sure that my go turn is a bit stronger than maybe not stronger on each flank, but make sure I can do 2 flanks at the same time. And then split fire. That's important. You sometimes the enemy is going to run like 20 MSU, and you just have to make sure you know how to split fire properly to make sure that your 1 brick is efficient. You're not going to be able to run the same type of army against the same type of enemy. Like maybe you're running MSU against a guy who's running 4 bricks. Maybe you're the guy running 4 bricks against the guy who's running 30 MSU. The other thing is, do not spoil the charge. If you're running a melee brick, charging is all important. The charge roll is the most important roll in the entire game, other than the deployment and the go first roll. So make sure you do not spoil the charge. Make sure you rapid ingress. Make sure you pre-measure the distance before you move, and make sure you agree to the pre-measured distance. Talk to your opponent. Hey, this is a 7-inch charge. You agree? You don't? Let's pre-measure it. Okay, but what if I move it this way? Okay, do those things first. Um, I have when I was tired and after I played like 3 games, 5 games in 3 days, and I did not pre-measure, and there's just that lost me the game, and that was not a very good experience for me or my opponent. And that was just the way I played was bad. That was my fault. Um, Always save a CP for reroll. If you do not have the CP, um, maybe don't charge that turn, or maybe or recognize that it's risky and recognize that you might lose because of that. Um, if you are a shooting unit, that means your unit can do both shooting and charging. Shoot something else. You don't even have to shoot. So if you if your unit can shoot very strong, you can shoot something that's further away just to dump some shots in there, do some extra damage to a unit that doesn't matter, and then charge a unit that you actually care about because that unit is about to score you points, or because that unit is the one that actually needs to be killed because it's the bigger threat. And also remember that the enemy has to keep the leader or the character alive. It's the last one that can be taken away. So if you're deep strike on the leader. Make sure that's the one that you measure the 6 inch or the 9 inch to. The last thing, remember I said bricks die. Um, Once you use them, they're dead. Even the tar pits, they're dead. Do not mourn them. Working around the fact that they're dead. If they're not dead, it's because your opponent um, is unlucky or incompetent. Don't assume that they're incompetent. They can be unlucky, and so play around the fact that they are lucky or competent. And if it doesn't happen, then condolences to your opponent, and but don't assume that it will happen. Okay, final slide. How to get better. So I pretty much like I said, it was 40% list, 40% player, and 20% luck. And so luck is basically about your morale. And so how do you want to get better in this game? The first thing is always record all your games. I record all of my games onto Tabletop Battles, and this allows you to remember your games, um, sort of go back and review, figure out what's good and bad. Remember, like all these examples I give, most of them are real life examples, things that have actually happened to me. And it allows me to go back and say, oh, wait, this happened well, this happened bad. It allows me to improve constantly on based on the things that I've done in the past. I think that's very important. Every game goes to round five. Even if you don't have time to play it out, or even if your opponent doesn't want to play out because they've lost or because they've already won, talk it out. Do not concede the game. I think that's a question about your attitude towards the game. If you just concede as just throw it out, that means that you treat defeat as something that is negative and bad towards your that you actively try to avoid. It shouldn't be. You should treat a defeat as something that is a learning opportunity and sometimes quite fun. Like I said, defeats are interesting and something that you should embrace because it's part of the story. So I in the beginning I've conceded quite a lot of games. Now I always play to round five. I always talk them out. So that's what you should do, and it allows you to learn about your mistakes. Um, you should play more. You should always play more games. And playing fast allows you to play more games because it tires you out less and it makes the games more interesting. And attend tournaments. Don't make them out to be something more intimidating. They're not. The more I play the tournaments, the more I find that tournament players are better players to play with. Not because that they're sort of scary or good at the game, but they're actually sort of just more better sportsmen, better sportsmanship. They're more friendly. They're more charismatic and uh, better people. When they're this is a social game, so when you play in this game for a very long time, you get better at just going to a table with a stranger and just enjoying a beer with them. And don't be afraid of losing. When I talked to one of the veterans there, who was like, we call them jerseys because they wear jersey with their team, and he said he was 0-3 for the first seven of the RTTs. Another guy said he was 0-3 for 10 of them. And so when he said, "Oh, how do you do?" I said, "I was 1-2," and I said, "This is my third one. I'm 1-2." He's like, "Oh, that's fantastic. I was 0-3 for seven of them." So he's like, "You're doing really, really well." I'm like, "Wow, really? I feel like I suck." He's like, no, this is great. So go to them, get O3, get your ass kicked multiple times. That's how you get better. Another thing is, don't give yourself excuses. It's not because you're more thematic, more lore friendly, and because you're less sweaty, because you spend more less time on this hobby because you have other things to do. Um, Most of the tournament players I see there, they have wives, they have kids, they have a career. Literally at one of the tournaments there, the guy was there giving out wedding invites to all his friends. So, it's not because you are, busier. They are balancing their lives better than you are. And most of them are painting better as well. Some of those models are fantastic. Like they're painting better than I am, better than you are. They're line highlighting all your models. Most of their models are better done than most of the guys in the Warhammer Scottsdale score by a considerable amount. So they're spending more time, and they have more armies than we do. So no excuses. Focus on the faction that you like the gameplay of, and you like the lore of. Um, Choose any faction, but don't make it a skew faction. Um, don't make it a skew faction, and don't make it knights. I think knights is the only one you don't want to make it, because knights is a stat check faction, and stat check develops bad habits for the player because you try to it makes you rely on the stat check to win, and you get stuck on lower tables. So I think stat Knights is the only one where you don't really want it to be your first faction. Anything else really works. Try to make it a faction where you like the models. Newer models helps because it allows you to, your models don't get legends very easily, and then you have new models coming all the time that you can keep buying and painting and enjoying the hobby. But if it's your guys and you like them, that's how you keep getting engaged with the game. Um, Understand your army, know your army very well, know your data sheets to the point where you don't have to pick up your phone except to record your score. That's how if you're not thinking about your data sheets, and that's how you get better. I'm up to the point where I basically don't have to pick up my phone except to record the score, and that's how you get better at the game. Like if you have to pick up your phone because you don't know what the melee profile of your tank is. That makes sense, right? I don't know what the melee profile of a devilfish is because nobody does. It's hitting on 5, strength 6, AP, nothing, damage 1, something like that. Nobody cares because you don't melee with a devilfish. That's fine. But I should know that the Melta gun hits on a 4, +1 BS if it's guided, strength 9, AP 4, D6 plus Melta 2 if it's within half range. And I have 2 of them on every crisis suit, 4 on the commander. I should just be able to recite that. Oh, and reroll wounds and reroll damage if it's a vehicle or monster. Range 12, 6 if it's Melta 2. Like that I should know off the top of my head because I use that unit over and over and over again. And you should not be switching units because this is how you get better. And you should understand various mechanics in the game. So Lone Op, you should know Vectora, you should know about rerolls, you should know about Armor of Contempt, you should know about all these things. And as you play, you'll learn about all these mechanics are more or less the same. So the more you play, you'll start to see a pattern, and you start to see that hey, you have to watch out for a certain amount of things. Like Death Guard really have to watch out for reactive moves. And so every time I walk up to a table, like, hey, do you have any reactive moves? Oh, you don't have reactive moves? Fine. I can turn off that part of my brain. Hey, do you have any deep strike? Hey, do you have any rushdown? Do you have any infiltrators? Do you have any scouts? Do you have any like these things are the things I have to watch out for in my Death Guard. Hey, do you have any melee that hurts very much in my Tau? Or do you have in Emperor's Children, do you have any -1 damage? Because -1 damage kills my flawless base. Like these are the things I know I have to watch out for each individual unit, and I don't have to know the army. I just have to know that these are the mechanics I have to watch out for, and all I have to do is ask my opponent if they have that in their army, and that's all I need. So that's the kind of engagement that you want with the enemy's data sheets and the enemy's detachment. You don't have to know their entire army, although it helps, you know. And the more you play the game, the more you'll be able to learn it. And playing other people's armies helps, right? I think that if you start to get to know other people's other friends with different armies, start to borrow their armies and start playing with them, it's actually a very good thing. Um, but I don't think you should feel obligated to do that. You should start playing your own armies before you do anything other than like that. Um, this has gone on for way too long. I think I'm gonna split this into two parts at least, with that lunch break in between. But thank you very much. Go roll some dice. I am thinking there should be a part two, but this is or part three. This is already two parts. But I think there should be like a 202 or a 301 where I talk about individual factions or more complicated concepts. I should definitely update this for 11th edition. If you're interested, let me know. I don't know how many people are interested in watching. I think this is 3 hours worth of shit. So, yeah, if you appreciate it, let me know. If you think this is stupid, let me know. Thank you so much.